So how does a pretty small kingdom in, what's now Afghanistan, just explode into one of the most powerful and iconic empires the world has ever seen? Well, today we're going to dive right into that. We're talking about the incredible origin story of the Mughal Empire.
Okay, so to really get a handle on how this all began, we're actually going to start with one of its most famous symbols. I mean, a monument that pretty much everyone on Earth knows.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you know this one. It's the Taj Mahal, of course. Just an absolutely incredible piece of architecture. And it's one of the greatest gifts from the very empire we're talking about, the Mughals. But the story of how the dynasty that built this came to be. Wow, it's a story packed with ambition, epic battles, and just pure, stubborn willpower.
And that whole story, it really starts with one guy, the founder of the whole dynasty, a man named Babur.
So let's kind of set the scene here. Babur wasn't born the head of some massive empire, not at all. He was the ruler of a pretty small region around Kabul, and he was constantly looking east, towards India. He saw it as this unbelievably rich and prosperous land just full of opportunity, and he was just waiting, biding his time for the perfect moment to make his move.
You might be wondering, where does that name Mughal even come from? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. It comes from the word Mongol. Yep, Babur was a direct descendant of the great Mongol conquerors, and believe me, that lineage, it was a huge part of his identity and for sure his ambition.
And you know what? His timing was absolutely perfect. The big power in the region, the Delhi Sultanate, was starting to get weak, and Babur saw his opening. He invaded, and using some really powerful new weapons and smarter tactics, he didn't just win a battle. No, he completely toppled an entire regime. In just 3 years, he had carved out a serious kingdom for himself, with Delhi and Agra right at its heart.
But things didn't exactly get easier from there. Far from it. Babur died not long after setting up his kingdom, and the fate of this new, kind of fragile empire, it fell to his son, Humayun. And let's just say he immediately ran into some major trouble.
Yeah, unlike his dad, Humayun really struggled to keep a grip on power. He came up against this really tough opponent, an Afghan chieftain named Sher Shah Suri. And in a make-or-break battle, Humayun lost. He lost everything. Just like that, the brand new Mughal kingdom was literally wiped off the map, gone.
And we're not talking about a little setback here. This was huge. Humayun had to flee all the way to Persia, and he lived there in exile for 15 long years. Can you imagine that? You're the son of the great conqueror, and now you're a king with absolutely no kingdom.
But the story takes another crazy turn. Just like his father had spotted weakness and pounced, Humayun saw his own chance when the Afghan rules started to stumble. So he came back, he invaded, and he actually did it. He recaptured Delhi. But then, in this just tragic twist of fate, he died only a short time after getting his throne back. Unbelievable.
I mean, this is totally where the story could have just ended, right? A 2-generation blip. But Humayun had a son. His name was Akbar. And this is the guy who wouldn't just reclaim his father's empire. He would build it into something absolutely massive, something legendary.
Okay, so one of the biggest challenges for him early on was getting the powerful Rajput kings on his side. A lot of them did join him, but one, the proud warrior Rana Pratap of Mewar, he flat out refused to bow down. And that led to an absolutely fierce and famous battle.
Now, Akbar did win the battle, but Rana Pratap's incredible resistance and his bravery, it turned him into a legend. He fought to the bitter end for his kingdom's independence, and even today, he's seen as this powerful symbol of patriotism in India.
But here's the thing about Akbar. His greatness wasn't just about winning wars. It was about how he ruled. The man was a brilliant administrator. He came up with policies that kept the empire stable for generations. He actually won the trust of his Hindu subjects by doing things like appointing them to high-ranking posts and, this is huge, getting rid of the special tax that only non-Muslims had to pay. That wasn't just about money. It was a massive statement about inclusion. He was also super tolerant, always inviting leaders from different religions to come and have discussions. And his court? Oh, it became this glittering hub for arts and culture, attracting geniuses like the incredible musician Tansen and the super sharp advisor Birbal.
In fact, he was so fascinated with all these different religions that he tried to create something totally unique. It was called Din-e-Ilahi, which basically means religion of God. Now, it wasn't meant to replace Islam or Hinduism or anything else. It was more like a new sect, an ethical code that tried to pull in the best principles from all religions.
But this really noble-sounding idea, it never really took off. Only a tiny handful of people, mostly his close friends and advisors, ever actually followed it.
So what happened? Maybe it was just too personal to him, you know? Or maybe people were just too connected to their own traditions. It's a really interesting question our source brings up, and it's something to think about. Why do you think this whole attempt at a universal, blended religion just failed to catch on?
So when you look at Akbar's reign, with all its different sides, it really makes you ask a big question. What does it even mean to be a great ruler?
I think our source material really nails it. It calls him an able administrator and a broad-minded ruler, and says he had a lot of the qualities you need for a great king. See, he wasn't just a conqueror. He was someone who brought people together. He was a builder.
And that really leaves us with something to chew on. Akbar's legacy, it's built on his military power, for sure. But it's just as much defined by his genius for administration and his incredible tolerance. So it makes you wonder, what truly makes a ruler great? Is it how powerful your armies are, or is it how open and big your mind is?